Guys, welcome to your exact 24-month roadmap to make your dreams a reality. I'm talking about hitting your financial goals, your lifestyle goals, having the confidence that you want, the security that you want, and essentially that vision that I know that you have in your head. We are going to be able to make it a reality by following this exact step-by-step roadmap that we're about to go through in this video. And by the way, the reason that I am so confident about this is because this roadmap is exactly what I went through in order to get from just making $5,000 a month only 3 short years ago to then making $20,000 a month, to then making $20,000 per week, okay? And by the way, you guys are going to be ahead of me, right? It took me 3 years because I didn't know this information that we're about to go through. Many of you guys watching this video, might even be you yourself, are going to beat me, all right? Okay, you're going to be able to do this far shorter than 3 years because you're going to know this information ahead of time. This is the exact roadmap that I followed. It works, it's proven, and I've also helped countless clients successfully to execute on this roadmap, okay? It's not going to be some theory video. It's not going to be like pie in the sky, high-level information. This is going to be an exact step-by-step roadmap for you to follow in order to make your dreams a reality over the next 24 months, maybe even sooner. So again, truly lock in on this one. I promise you, this can change your life. I know it can change your life because it changed my life and the lives of countless clients that I've helped to execute on this roadmap. To go through a quick couple of examples, Craig was making $4,000 a month at the time that I first met him. 2 months after signing up, now doing $7,000 commission per week, okay? 7.2 thousand to be exact. Daniel, 300,000 per year, but wait for this, at 19 years old. 19 years old, and he is making more than most 50-year-old doctors, okay? That's the power of this. Ockham, 4,000 commission per week in only his first month of the role that we placed him in. Amit, another guy that absolutely smashed it. I could go on and just fill this page, but it's not about boring you with social proof. Let's just dive straight in. So grab something to take notes with. Like this video, by the way, so that you can access it easily. And if you want this document, maybe you're somebody who likes reading, you want to be able to refer to this easily, then just message me on Instagram. My username is the same as here on YouTube, Scott Parsons Sales. I will send over the document. And if you've also just got any other questions about this roadmap, if you want my help, I'm totally fine to always be helping people out, essentially, whether you're a client of mine or not. Obviously, clients get priority, but again, if you've just got a little message, I'm totally fine with helping you out. So just shoot me across a message on Instagram if you want to connect further, okay? Now, in terms of the game plan of action, I want to first tee this up with a little bit of context. And some of you guys here on YouTube might have heard me talk about this concept called the 2 skills. My clients that I work with in depth certainly know about this, but we're going to run through it again just very quickly at the high level, okay? Because it's important for the game plan that we're about to go in through. Now, the 2 skills, okay? So in a nutshell, guys, you are quite literally 1 skill away from making a 10 to 40,000 per month income. Now, I know that it might sound crazy. It might be out of some people's paradigms, and that's fine. It was for me at some point. But you are literally 2 skills away, having 2 skills away from making a 50 to 100,000 per month income, okay? That's millionaire status, okay? And the skills are as follows. Level 1A is closer. And at this level, you need the skill of closing. And this skill is what unlocks a 10 to 40,000 a month income. Now, at this level, what you need to be able to do is to consistently close deals over Zoom from cold traffic. So for those of you that don't know, cold traffic is people that have only just found out about you, essentially. Maybe they just saw an advert from you. Maybe they just opened an email from you, just saw a piece of content from you. That is cold traffic, okay? You need to be able to get onto a Zoom call with cold traffic, with people that have only just recently found out about you, and be able to essentially guide the conversation towards them closing, towards them purchasing from you. Now, level 1B, okay, and I put that this is optional, is sales management, okay? So by now you've got the skill of closing. If you layer on top the skill of sales, hiring, and managing, this is what unlocks an even further income of 40 to 60K a month. Typically, when you're a sales manager in this space, you're on a base salary of kind of low 6 figures per year, plus profit share, occasionally equity, okay, plus bonuses. Very, very much doable to hit a 40 to 60,000 per month income by leading a sales team, okay? And at this level, again, you've already got the skill of closing. If you can layer on top the skill of hiring, managing, and training, you can manage a sales team full-time under just one business, or you can also do what's called fractional sales management, where you might split your time across 3 different businesses that you're all managing their sales teams for, okay? There's obviously a lot more to it, but that's the high level. And again, typically you'll be in a base salary of around about 10K a month, give or take, plus profit share. And inside my sales training and recruitment program, which by the way, I'll bring up here just to give you, this is just the modules. We also do a lot more than just modules, by the way. But but we teach this very, very much in depth, in terms of helping clients to teaching them exactly what to do on the sales management front, and also directly placing them into a role as well, done for you, okay? But it is important that first they kind of prove themselves as closers. You know, we can't be managing and training other people if we can't do it ourselves. So before I kind of release them out to the market, as it were, for a sales management role. Very important that they've, consistently made plus 20K a month for at least a good few months. They've closed at a consistent plus 20% cold traffic, and then I help them in a done for you setting. So we literally do it for them, land a sales management role, and then provide the training on exactly what to do once they're in the role so that they can smash it out the park, hit some big numbers, and again, hit that 40 to 60K a month income. However, if clients don't want to do that step, some people don't, and that's totally fine. If they want to skip this step, I also help with that, okay? So by the way, everything we're going through here, like, this is exactly what I teach to clients. This is the exact roadmap that I help them to execute, okay? And that's across training modules, that's across one-to-one mentorship, group calls, and done-for-you recruiting as well. So accessing all of our partnerships, of which, by the way, there's 500 plus partnerships with companies that we work with and who we have recruitment deals for them to hire through us. But anyways, with that being said, if they want to skip the sales management step, that is okay. They can do that. And then I help them go to the next step, which is offer owner, okay? So at this point, guys, like, think about it at the high level, right? At this point, you know how to close high ticket deals over Zoom. So what that means is you can come into another company, you can take their Zoom calls with their prospects and close the deal. Now think about the simplicity of this, okay? You already know how to close high ticket deals on Zoom. What about if you then layer on top the skill of appointment booking? In other words, you layer on top the skill of knowing how to drive people to a Zoom call. You already know how to close a deal over Zoom. Now you just need to know how to drive people to a Zoom call. And this is where you start selling your own product and service versus closing deals for other companies. You're closing your own deals. And this is what truly unlocks that plus 100,000 a month income, okay? Think about this again. If you know how to close high ticket deals over Zoom and you know how to drive people to a Zoom call, you're going to make the big money. It's just, I know it's almost sounds stupid how simple it is, but it literally just is the case. Now, there is a level beyond that, okay, where we can also layer on top the skill of being able to build a good product, leadership. We're not going to go into too much detail on that right now. I just want you guys to kind of visualize this for the moment of the skill of closing high ticket deals over Zoom for another company, and then layer on top the skill of knowing how to bring people to a Zoom call. Okay, those are the two skills that unlock the big money for you. So now let's get into the specific roadmap. Okay, this is the sell, scale, own 24-month roadmap. Like I said, it's broken down into 3 phases. We're going to dive into detail on each phase. Now, phase number 1 is sell. Typical duration. By the way, guys, when I say things like 24-month roadmap, the duration is 1 to 3 months. I don't want you guys thinking that's like a set in stone thing. You know, it might take you a little bit longer. It might be quicker for you, okay? But this is just kind of a rough average, okay? So phase number 1, on average, lasts about 1 to 3 months. Now, the core objective of this phase is to, this is so important, learn the foundational principles of selling high-ticket B2B solutions. Now, by the way, guys, me and my company, we focus on placing clients into closing roles with AI companies that sell a high-ticket AI solution, typically priced at $20,000 to $40,000 and upwards. But really, guys, this does apply to other industries as well, to other high-ticket sales type roles. It's just that, frankly, closing high-ticket AI solutions is just, it's the best type of sales role at the moment. This is where all the money and demand is flowing, which is why we focus on this. But again, you can apply this to other industries as well. But you want to learn the foundational principles, the deep psychology behind selling high-ticket AI solutions or high-ticket B2B solutions, high-ticket deals in general. Very important to know the psychology that goes into this. Then you want to learn the specific sales process itself. So the foundational principles, the psychology behind it, that's a little bit more of the theory. That's a little bit more of the why. So important, arguably more important than the actual sales process itself. But in when you're learning the specific sales process, this is like exactly what to do and what to say when you get on your calls, okay? A prospect joins a Zoom call. We want to have structure to the conversation. We want to know exactly what we're doing. We want to know what words we're saying, what questions to ask, how to pitch, how to close, how to handle objections, and all that good stuff, which again is obviously something we go very much into detail on all of this that we're about to go through inside our training and recruiting program. Also during this phase, you're going to land a role with a top tier AI company, a company who sell a high ticket AI solution. Again, this is just frankly the best closing roles to sell in is in AI. But again, this can be applied to other types of industries as well. So Phase number one, sell. Months, again, 1 to 3. So again, you're going to master the fundamental psychology behind why people buy. You're going to master the specific process to actually close high-ticket deals over Zoom. And then you're going to begin applying the above principles and the exact sales process into a real sales role, okay, once you've landed the role. And your goal here is that you want to make, start making your first 10,000 a month plus. I very, very regularly have clients that do over 10,000 a month in their very first month. You saw that guy Occam earlier. He did 4,000 per week, 16,000 per month in his first month of the role. Okay, very, very possible to do it in your first month. But at least by month 3 of this process, you want to be at least 10,000 a month and beyond. And this phase is really, with all being said, is really about learning one core skill: how to close high ticket deals over Zoom, okay, for somebody else's business, selling somebody else's service, okay? So month 0 to 1, how this breaks down is typically month 0 to 1, foundations, okay? Your job here is to learn the foundational sales psychology behind why people buy from you, to learn the specific process and structure for how to actually conduct a closing call. This is really, it's not just about scripts. It's not just about word tracks. That stuff is fine and it helps. I give a bunch of scripts and things like that. But really, what's actually going to move the needle for you and get you closer to your goals of real wealth is understanding the deep psychology behind why people buy from you. How do human beings make decisions? And then you can use and apply that information to guide conversations towards the close, again, using first principles psychology. Now, as a side note, guys, understanding this, the foundational psychology behind why people buy, this is one of, if not the highest leverage money-making skill that you will ever have. Once you understand this, I promise you, you will be wealthy for the rest of your life, no matter what you do. Whether you sell in the AI industry like what we do, whether you go to a totally different industry, it's going to transfer, okay? This is so important and just, again, one of the highest leverage money-making skills that you can have, understanding why people buy high-ticket products and services, okay? Now, month number 2 specifically is where we land a role, okay? Now, again, the time frames here are average. Like, again, that guy Occam that I showed you earlier, he landed a role within 2 weeks of signing up with us. For other people, it takes 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, okay? But typically by at least month 2, we want to be into a role, okay? So the next step here is landing a role with a company that sells a high-ticket B2B AI solution for what we do, okay? You could also say, it could also work for companies that sell a high-ticket B2C solution, but I don't know why you'd want to do that. It takes, frankly, the same amount of work to sell a high-ticket B2B AI solution for, say, $30,000, as it takes the same amount of work doing that as it does closing a $5,000 B2C solution, okay? But one of them nets you 6 times the commission. You want to be in a role where you're closing something for ideally at least a 20K price point, because that's what gives us that efficiency. Again, we don't want to be selling things for necessarily like $5,000 and getting 500 commission, when for the same amount of work and time, we can sell something for more like 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 and net 4 to 8 times the commission for the same amount of work. While, by the way, often being an easier sell, okay? It's a lot easier sometimes to sell a genuine business solution to a business owner, to a cash-rich business owner, by the way, who has hundreds of thousands or millions in the bank. It's a lot easier often to sell that than sell a consumer a $5,000 high-ticket course or something like that, okay? So same amount of work and time, 4 to 8 times the commission, while often being an easier sell, okay? You can see why me and my company, why we focus specifically on selling high-ticket B2B AI solutions. The company that you get the closing role within, you want it to have proven demand, okay, good appointment booking flow. They have to have a decent amount of call bookings coming in so that you can hit your financial goals. You also want to have them to have a good product, right? It's a good product that solves a genuinely good problem. It's in demand. It really does help a business. The value proposition is very clear. For example, a bunch of AI companies we work with where the value propositions are so tangible. I've spoken about this in previous videos. You pay me $30,000, I'm going to save you $500,000. It's just so clear and obvious, right? But in terms of me and my company, in terms of the recruitment front, we actually, when we make deals with each of these AI companies for them to hire closers through us, we vet them for these 3 things, okay? So we practice what we preach. We vet them for strong lead flow, making sure there's a good volume of appointments and Zoom call bookings coming in. High price points, and those high price points are what gives us high commission per deal. And again, a good product, right? So they've got some good reviews, they've got some, case studies, etc. We vet them for all 3 of these things, okay? Now, the above is critical, guys, because, again, I've spoken about this in previous videos. If you want to get to the big numbers in sales, whether that's in AI sales, regular high-ticket sales, whatever it might be, okay, the big numbers, the 20, 30, 40,000 months, you need to have a strong sales skill and be selling for a good company, okay? A lot of people focus on the sales training side of things, which is absolutely needed 100%. But the thing is, put it this way. You could be a highly skilled salesperson, okay, very hardworking, but if you're selling in a declining, slow industry, like, I don't know, like newspapers, for example, then you're just never going to quite hit the big numbers, right? Whereas some 19-year-old guy who's not as skilled as you, not even as hardworking, they outcompete and they make 20, 30, 40,000 a month because they're selling in something like AI, where there's a lot of money and demand, there's a lot of capital flowing in, and they get to essentially come in and take a slice of the pie and be part of all that capital that's flowing in to the AI industry. So ultimately, guys, it's super important that you be mindful of the industry that you're selling in and the company that you're selling for, okay? Very, very important. Yes, you do need strong sales skills. Sales training is important, 100%, but you want to be able to apply that sales skill to the right industry and the right company, okay? Again, specifically an industry with a lot of money and demand flowing in, and a company that has high price points, strong lead flow, and a good product, okay? If you have 0 out of 2 of these things, as in you have no sales skill and you're not selling for a good company, you're just going to really, really struggle, frankly. If you have one of the two, so for example, you have strong sales skill, but you're not selling for a good company, or you are selling for a good company, but you don't have much sales skill, then you'll be able to make a decent, okay income. But if you have both of these things, you have strong sales skill and you're selling for a good company in an in-demand industry, then that's where you make the big life-changing money, okay? So you're not just getting paid here, okay? In this phase, you are also getting paid to learn how a successful business operates. Now, take mental note of this, because this is going to make more sense as we go about why it's important throughout to not just show up and close deals. Obviously, that's the primary objective, but also be documenting and analyzing what that business does. We are in such a beautiful position that rather than us starting a business from scratch and trying to figure everything out, we get to earn big money, 20, 30, 40,000 a month and upwards, while being on the inside of a very successful businesses, getting to see their processes, how they operate, and then we can leverage that later on down the line in phase 3 in the own phase, which we'll get into very, very soon. Month 3 is really just about momentum. Typically by this point, this is where things are clicking. You're consistently closing deals. Maybe you've hit your first 20,000 a month. Confidence is really boosting. Your identity has now shifted from somebody who's making, say, maybe 5,000 a month to now like, oh, okay, my self-image, my identity is someone now of a top performer. I am somebody who makes 20, 30, 40,000 a month, okay? I am that guy. Because if you've never made more than, say, 10,000 a month in your life before, and you get to making, say, 20,000 a month, 30,000 a month, I promise you guys, this will be one of the best feelings and the best phases of your life. So just really soak it all in and enjoy it at the time. I wish I could go back to that feeling, okay? The feeling of hitting my first 20,000 a month after all the previous years behind that, were spent basically living paycheck to paycheck. And then you get to this space of earning 20K a month and all of a sudden it's like, you can take a breather. Okay, it gets to the end of the month. I've got a bunch of cash left over after still, being able to buy the things that I want and need and potentially upgrade your lifestyle. Although careful with that. We're going to talk about this in just a second. Okay, be very, very careful with your income rises and then immediately your expenses rise. Be mindful of that. We'll go into more detail on that in just a second. But ultimately, guys, this will be one that 20,000 a month, in my experience, is where the freedom and security is unlocked. 20,000 a month is the new 10,000 a month, okay? Especially if you live in the Western world in a major city, 20,000 a month in my experience is what you need to have that good lifestyle, to have that freedom, to have that security. It's hit at 20,000 a month, not 10,000 a month, unfortunately. But in this phase, again, you typically, you might have made 10,000 plus in your first month. You want to ideally hit your first 20,000 a month by the end of month 3. And at this point, income range is typically 10 to 30,000 a month. And what's going to determine where you fall in that range is exactly what we said earlier. Sales skill and selling in the right industry for the right company. Phase number 2 is scale, and this is typically months 3 to 12. And the goal here is to systemize output and scale your income, okay? Now, what you're really doing in this phase, yes, you're taking everything that you've done so far and you're optimizing it. You're moving it to the next level while systemizing things so that it takes less manual time input from you. You're systemizing your follow-up system, systemizing your pre-call process, okay? So building your own systems that enhance your results without having to add too much manual time input, okay? So now, but really more importantly, what you're doing here is, again, like I said earlier, you are documenting, analyzing how this company operates. Maybe the company that you sell for makes 1 million a month, right? 12 million a year. You're being on the inside, okay? How do they position their offer? How do they drive traffic to the Zoom call? How does their leadership think and operate, okay? You're also building up your network. You're building trust with influential people, and this cannot be understated. This is where your network truly compounds in this scale phase, okay? Because putting it this way, guys, I was thinking about this the other day. When you have, say, over 20 people in your phone book who you know, who they like you and they trust you, 20 people like that who are multimillionaires, it becomes very difficult for you not to build wealth, genuinely. Just by osmosis, you pick up how they think, how they operate, the opportunities they pick out. And then naturally, what happens is when we mimic another person's behavior and thinking, we tend to mimic their results, right? And then also, not to mention that if you have a bunch of people like this in your phone book, then if you ever wanted to go and raise money or whatever it might be, boom, you've got like 20 people you can go and ask who have an abundance. But obviously, we don't want that to happen. But I'm just saying, it becomes, when you have a strong network, guys, it really does become hard to not be wealthy, okay? The old saying, your network is your net worth. Now, in this phase, months 3 to 12, again, like we spoke about earlier, there's the optional upgrade of sales management. So at this stage, some people want to go into sales management, you know, and then for that, you're going to need to layer on top the skills of hiring, training, managing other closers. And again, at this level, you're on a base salary of 6 figures, you're on profit share, sometimes equity, and this is really where a 40 to 60,000 a month income is unlocked. I've told this to previous, I think in previous videos and previous clients, is that, so one of my first ever clients, okay, he essentially got into a closing role with a somewhat early stage company, not crazy early stage, but you know, they were right about to take off. So it was a perfect time. He came in just come into a closing role, right? Recruited for a closing role. He ended up smashing it out the park. And within literally 4 months, he moved into sales leadership. And then a few months after that, he moved into being the chief revenue officer of that company, which he still is in that role to this day, where he now is on a base salary of 6 figures. He now also has equity in the company plus profit share. And by the way, that company is an AI SaaS that is gearing up for a $50 million exit within the next 2 to 3 years. And he's going to get a slice of that, okay? So it just goes to show, again, like you start to take, like when you're a closer for another company, you're just typically getting a 10 to 15% cut of the deal, right? The commission. But when you move into sales leadership, that's typically when you start getting a slice of the pie, slice of the profits, maybe an equity stake. And again, you get to really become ingrained in that company and again, get a piece of the pie, which is cool when you never had to, build the company, basically. You didn't have to build a product from scratch, build all the systems, you know, get clients. Like you didn't have to go through that hard grind. You just kind of came in, performed well in the closing, ended up going into a sales leadership position and taking a piece of the pie, essentially. And again, like we said earlier, we can either do that by managing one team full time, which is what I most often recommend. You know, focus is a real thing. Okay, we want to not have our time and focus, you know, divided out over too many different variables. But yeah, you can do it across one team full time, or you can act as a fractional sales manager across multiple different businesses. Now, going back to something I mentioned earlier, guys, in these phases, all of the phases really, but especially in this scale phase, if you're somebody, again, who hasn't maybe made more than 10,000 a month in your life before, what I'm about to say is even more important. Financial discipline is so key to your success and where you end up in life. It's so monumentally important because wealth is the gap between income and expenses, okay? I've seen this, unfortunately, before. People will maybe join us, clients will join us in the program. Again, they've never made more than 10,000 a month in their life, but now they start making more like 20,000 a month. So their income goes like that, but also what happens is their expenses, they start, okay, right, I'm going to buy that BMW, I'm going to buy that new apartment, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, boom, their expenses also rise there. And now there's no gap between income and expenses. So what happens is they still don't feel financially secure. Even though they went from making, say, 5,000 a month to 20,000 a month, their income quadrupled, and yet still, they don't feel financially insecure. They don't feel financially secure. It's so key, guys, to create that gap between income and expenses, okay? I'm not saying to necessarily decrease your expenses once you start hitting 20,000 a month, but at least and again, there is something to be said about rewarding ourselves. You know, if you do maybe have that, dream apartment and it's only like, you know, $500 extra a month, but you're now making an extra 15,000 a month. Yeah, there's an argument to be said for going for that. But again, like being financially disciplined with your spending habits is so key, okay? What trap we definitely don't want to fall into is raising your expenses in line with your income. Like you go 5,000 a month to 20 and your expenses go boom, boom, boom. We don't want to do that. We want our income to rise and massively take a quantum leap upwards while our expenses stay roughly the same. If not, maybe a slight bit up, okay? Because again, there is something to be said about rewarding ourselves and spending money and the circulating money, but that's a whole deep topic, okay? So stay liquid. Phase number 3, own. This is where the fun truly begins, okay? Again, guys, this is the exact path that I went through. Phase number 3, own. Months typically 12 to 24. Could be sooner than that, could be later than that. Roughly months 12 to 24. The goal here is where we're going to move from commission to ownership, okay? We're going to go from being a part of somebody else's company to being within our own company. This is truly where life and the game truly changes, because up until now, you've been used to closing deals over Zoom for other people's companies and collecting typically 10 to 15% in commissions. But now when you start selling your own product and service, you're going to start collecting more like 50 to 90% of the deal, depending on a few factors. So same skill, okay? Think about, like, it goes back to what we said earlier. You know how to close high ticket deals over Zoom for another company. Once you know how to get people to a Zoom call, it's essentially the same skill, okay? But just more upside, okay? So by now in your journey, so think about, by this point, you've been through the scale phase, you've consistently made plus 20,000 a month, you've consistently been able to close high ticket deals over Zoom for another company. By this point, ideally, you've got over 6 figures in the bank. You've got a bunch more skills. You've got a bunch more connections. Now it is time for ownership, okay? So when it comes to building your own company, this is the order that you want to follow, right? Some people are like, okay, I'd love to have my own AI business or whatever it might be, but what do I do? Okay, well, this is what you do, okay? And again, this is something that within the program, the training and recruiting program, again, guys, this is exactly what I teach and help the guys out with, okay? Close deals for another company, make 20, 30, 40,000 a month, then layer on top the skill of appointment booking, drive people to your own Zoom calls with you, and sell your own product and service, and that's where you hit the big numbers. I help them out with all of this stuff. Some people I even partner up with them, but anyways, that's a whole different topic. But in terms of when you get to running your own business, this is what you want to do. So first off, choose the market. You could also call choose the niche. Choose a clear group of people that have a problem that you can solve, okay? And ideally are a cash-rich market, right? They've got money to pay for a high-ticket solution. You then want to define the offer, which is essentially the terms of the value exchange. Okay, now offer creation is a whole deep topic, which I'm not going to go into right now. This is the high level of the steps of what to do to, you know, begin selling your own product and service. For further reading, I do recommend checking out Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offers. It's very good. But ultimately, like the offer, like what result do you help them achieve? What time frame do you help them achieve it within? What's the value exchange? So for example, my offer, I help people like you to get placed into a closing role in the AI industry within 90 days and earn 10 to 40,000 a month within 6 months. Okay, very clear, right? I help you do this result in this time frame. Nice and easy. So once you've defined the market that you're going to be targeting, you define the offer, we then need to set up some appointment booking systems. So in other words, you now need a way to drive people to a Zoom call with you to sell your own product and service versus selling another company's product and service. So what you want to do is you want to pick 1 to 2 of the below appointment booking systems to build and focus on. Now, crucially, what happens is you are going to keep layering on top more and more appointment booking systems as you scale, right? You're going to add more and more systems that drive more and more appointments. You're going to start hiring closers and all that good stuff. But initially, just focus on building 1, maximum 2 appointment booking systems, dial it in, optimize it, and then layer on top the next one, okay? Now, in terms of appointment booking systems, at the high level, there's 3 kind of buckets, if you will. The first bucket is outbound, okay? So this is things like cold calling, cold email system, cold DM system. It's fast, it's cheap, it can be somewhat predictable, but the downside is it's harder to master, okay? You need a little bit more technical skill. And the thing is, the conversations are typically, in my experience from outbound, a little bit harder to close. Not by any means saying that closing outbound deals is hard, it's not. But the thing is, we're cold reaching out to somebody else, okay? Which, you know, through a cold call, a cold email, whatever. Which means that, again, there's just a little bit more of that trust versus, you know, if somebody had been watching hours and hours of your YouTube channel, then books a call with you, that person is naturally going to be a little bit easier to close. They're going to like you more, have more trust in you, etc. Same thing with paid ads. If we run a paid ad, even though we are the one putting an ad in front of them, they are the ones that choose to ultimately, go through your funnel, book a call with you. They are still coming to you even when we run a paid advertisement, okay? Something to bear in mind. This obviously goes very, very deep, right? And again, this is something that I help out my clients do, right? I help them build all these systems. I give them the exact processes. I connect them with people that can build it for them and all that kind of thing. But this is, again, the high level. Now, bucket number 2 of how you can drive people to an appointment with you is inbound content. So think about things like YouTube content, Instagram content, could be TikTok, could be LinkedIn. Obviously, you want to know, earlier on you would have chosen the market that you're going to target. You want to know where they hang out, basically. Is your target market on LinkedIn? Are they on Instagram? Are they on YouTube? And, focus on that specifically. Now, the upsides with inbound content is that it's very, very high trust. It goes back to what I said a second ago. If somebody has watched 30 hours of you on YouTube, they've gotten used to your voice, they like you, they trust you, and these are some of the easiest closes out there. I'll tell you what, guys, as of recording this video right now, I have, a small YouTube channel, right? But let me tell you, I have had multiple prospects who then become clients who get onto a Zoom call with either me or my team. I don't really do the calls these days. I've got a lot to do. I have a team that take the closing calls. But the amount of people that I've got on and they've consumed all of my YouTube content, hours upon hours, tens upon hours, and they are just ready to buy. I've literally had people say that, fairly near the start of the call, say to me, yeah, I want to sign up. Like, they are sometimes the easiest closes because, again, they like you, they trust you, they've already, in a digital manner, spent a lot of time with you. It's also exponential as well. So content, as you're going to see in the downside of content is that it can take a while to start building traction, right? To start bringing in results. For you to get consistent call bookings from content, it can take a little while, okay? It's typically, again, it's not a set in stone rule, but typically you're looking at about 6 to 12 months before you start seeing any real results with it, okay? However, once it does go like that, then again, it's exponential, right? Maybe you spend 12 months grinding out content and nothing really happens, but at month 13, boom, it just takes off, and now all of a sudden you've got all these people booking in appointments with you. They are easy closes, and your business scales to the moon essentially. But again, can take a little while to build up. Now the third bucket, and this is my personal favorite by the way, is paid ads. Okay, so that could be meta ads, so essentially digital ads across Facebook and Instagram, Google ads, YouTube ads. I love it so much because it's scalable, it's predictable. Once you know your metrics and your cost, so for example, I know that it's going to cost me $100 to book a call, okay? I know that it's going to cost me roughly $1,000 to acquire a client. Then you can just choose how much you want to spend and choose how much, you can essentially choose how much clients you want to bring in essentially. I love the predictability of it. And it is highly profitable if you get it right, when it's dialed in. And again, my clients, I literally build the advertising campaigns and the funnels and stuff for them. The downside, however, is that it costs money, right? And if you don't know what you're doing on the ad front, then you run the risk of wasting money, okay? Wasting money until you do get it right, okay? By the way, okay, so my personal favorite is paid ads and inbound content in tandem with each other, okay? So again, going back to what I said earlier, I've had clients that have got to the initial sales call with me or my team, and they are just ready to buy. But what actually happened was, the person saw my advert, my advert across Facebook or Instagram, which by the way is typically I say typically, it is the main way that we get clients is through meta ads for the program that is. And so what happens is, somebody will see the ad, but they won't necessarily book a call straight away. They'll see the ad, they'll go out and check me out online. Maybe Google me, they'll have a look at some of the Trustpilot reviews, maybe they'll search me up on YouTube, then they end up here, then they end up consuming hours and hours of my content and then book a call, and now they're super warm and just basically ready to buy. So that's why I really like doing ads and content in tandem with each other. They complement each other very, very well. And by the way, that also works the other way as well. So somebody sees your ad and then goes and checks out your content, but inversely, somebody might see your content, okay, really like and trust you, and then begin seeing your ads, okay? They work together so well. But you want to get to a stage where you have all of them, right? You have outbound, like a cold email system firing. You've maybe got some cold callers working for you. You're ramping up content. You're posting content weekly, running ads. You want to hit prospects from all angles, essentially. And again, this is super high level. Like there's so much to all of this, right? There's a lot to it, okay? But typically when you can do this, right, when you've got solid appointment booking systems set up, so again, from earlier on in the roadmap, you know how to close high ticket deals over Zoom. Now you've got some appointment booking systems set up and you know how to drive people to your own Zoom calls and close your deals for your own product and service. This is what unlocks that 100,000 a month and beyond income, okay? Very, very, life-changing for many, many people. So let's look at the high level, guys. The skill stack required is number one, closing. Okay, then optionally you can move into sales management, layer on top the skill of hiring and managing closers. Then appointment booking, so knowing how to drive people to a Zoom call with you. But then there's also a level beyond that, because if you really do want to get to the big numbers, so I say here, like if you know how to close high ticket deals over Zoom and you know how to drive people to a Zoom call with you, that's what unlocks 100,000 a month income. But for those of you that are super ambitious and really want to get to the big numbers as I do, then you're going to also need to know how to build a genuinely good product, okay? All of the sales teams that I've ever worked on, the ones doing, plus 1 million a month, all of them had a genuinely good product, right? Where they give a good customer experience, the customer gets good results. You're not going to be able to hit those numbers unless, again, you have a genuinely good product. So it's important that you layer on top that skill of knowing how to build a good product. Also leadership as well, because at this stage, you've got closers that are working underneath you. They're taking the calls. You've got maybe someone who's running your marketing, and you kind of almost become a manager of managers, right? You're managing the sales manager. You're managing the marketing manager, who themselves are managing people underneath that. So it's really important. That is leadership, right? Essentially knowing how to manage managers, okay? Really steer the ship versus being in the day-to-day of the ship, essentially. So again, like I put here, if you want to build a lasting, sustainable, big business, you need to deliver a good product and service to your customers. Okay, has to be, right? Every team I've ever worked with doing the big numbers, 1 million a month plus, they had strong leadership, strong sales systems, and a genuinely good product, right? So you want to be aiming for like 90% plus positive customer satisfaction. On our Trustpilot, just saying, we've got 100% 5-star reviews as of recording this video, which I'm very happy about. I take the product extremely seriously. The most seriously out of any sort of facet of the business is what I take the most serious. Delivering my clients a genuinely good product, a good customer experience, and ultimately, above all, results, right? Good client results. So in summary, guys, the sell phase is where you're going to build that skill and start building that income. Scale is where you're going to build leverage. You're going to build your network and really, again, just scale up your income. Own is where you're going to build the real wealth, right? Where you're building your own thing, okay? So the skill stack, again, is first off closing, or you could also call it sales, then sales management, then appointment booking, then product, and then leadership. That is the exact roadmap. If you want help with this, guys, again, like there's so much more to this, right? I literally help you execute this to a fine detail so that you can ultimately, if you want to go through this roadmap by yourself, that's totally fine. But if you want to do it in a way which is so much faster and so much more certain, just book a call through the link in the description, speak with myself or a member of the team, and this is exactly what we help you out with, right? Down to the finest details. Rather than you having to go out and try and get a role yourself, we just do it for you. Rather than you having to figure out like, how do I sell? How do I close high ticket deals? We just teach you exactly what to do. Teach you exactly what to do and what to say. Plus give you the training on the foundational psychology. So again, it's ultimately working with us. It's a lot faster. It's a lot more of a higher success rate. It's a lot more certain. It's a lot less stress because you're working alongside experienced people who know what they're doing. So again, click the link in the description, book a call with our team, and potentially I'll see you on the other side. But with that being said, it's been an absolute pleasure. Really hope that you follow this roadmap, whether you're working closely with us or not. And I hope that it changes your life. Again, if any of you have got any further questions about this roadmap, again, this is more just kind of high level. There's obviously a lot more to this. If any of you do have more questions, just message me on Insta, Scott Parsons Sales. If you want this document that we're looking at so that you can kind of read it and go through it in a bit more detail, then again, just DM me on Instagram and we'll take it from there. But it's been an absolute pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and I will see you in the next video.